Thank you, Karthikeyan sir. Thank you, Dr. Chandrashekar. Thank you, Upadhyaya ji, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining this beautiful conference. Sometime in the 2015, Patriji wanted a conference like this, a moment like this. By then, Dr. HR and Karthikeyan sir, Patriji sir were always great friends. And Patriji was always about meditation, which is the Raja Yoga, needs to be given because meditation fixes all aspects of life. He truly believed, as Upadhyaya said, we are that Brahman, and so we become that, and then he applied that in a very simple terms. He talked about it in a very simple terms. And so he said, Buddha CEO, where every leader becomes a Buddha or an enlightened being, and then operates and governs from that understanding, which is about friendship, compassion, intuitiveness, and connection to the whole. And so with that intention, while we could not necessarily start that time, but then we were able to start this foundation in the 2020. We started some activities, but the 2020 we started the foundation, while many organizations in the world are operating and working for the same cause of elevating meditation. Now it's called mindfulness in the West in many ways, to the most important activity that we dream that every day we wake up, we start with meditation. We connect to ourselves. And so then Patriji's vision was, while everyone must become a meditator on the planet, which is Dhyana Jagath, that then let's focus on leadership. And so then he formed and inspired to have this Buddha Quantum Foundation started. So I'm ever grateful to Brahmarshi Pitamaha. I met him in the year 99, and then much of transformation. If I had seen my personal success, I'm a software engineer, became an entrepreneur in a software company, and then whether the company grew or whether I had living a great life today, all attributed to meditation and to my companionship with the Brahmarshi Patriji. It's a great master who's inspired many to do your best. Simple. We are always moving from where we are to the next level. And meditation is just taking us simply from where we are to the another level. That is sufficient for us to feel good to do more. And so Patriji, and then I met Padmashri Karthikeyan sir. Karthikeyan sir in Pyramid Valley International, where I got the fortune to form this international meditation center called Pyramid Valley International, which is outside Bangalore. As we heard, Patriji believed in the pyramid energy concept, and then our home is full of pyramids. At least we have 100+ pyramids in every bedroom, every area. The pyramids are for preservation, for healing, for altered states of consciousness. The galactic structure, there's much research is there, much more to be done. But then he believed, and then when we utilize the pyramids and go into the pyramid meditate, then we become calmer much quickly. Advanced meditators go into deep states much faster, go into much deeper states. And so he believed, and then he encouraged building pyramids, and I had this opportunity to be part of this board in forming this beautiful centers where Karthikeyan sir was regularly visiting, and then had the opportunity to interact and then form this association. Today led to the Buddha CEO Quantum Foundation. This conference is taking place primarily and fundamentally because of his huge interest and shift and mentorship. So thank you, Karthikeyan sir, beautifully for this wonderful opportunity that you have created. And so difference. So somewhere along the line from, meditation helps us to move into a purpose very clearly. We all have a purpose and come for a purpose. When every time we see Dr. H.R. Nagendraji, he came back from NASA and then created and then founded somewhere remote. And if you visit his place, it was remote then in 1980s from Bangalore, somewhere far, but today it's in a thriving institute. And so that is a greatest purpose of a master who created and assisted in this yoga movement in India. So this purpose is there, and then every one of us can easily attend to our purpose when we take meditation, when we tune into and say, what is it that I'm here for? That's what many masters have said. Ask yourself, who are you? Why are you here? And so the calling was there for me too at some point. Then I resigned my job from IBM as an executive and then took to this foundation from 2019 onwards. We're doing this beautiful work. Well, I've been there with Patriji since 2003 and then actively doing spiritual service parallel to my job. And we all have that capability. Our work is there, but at the same time, we also have our passions, and the passion becomes purpose. And so that's how it's been for me. And it's a great privilege and honor to be in front of you talking about a beautiful concept of meditation. Last year, we were here in the same hall with the Honorable Vice President of India being here inaugurating this conference. And then we will have Honorable Vice President tomorrow as a chief guest delivering his keynote tomorrow. So we will look for his greatest presence again. And dear friends, as Karthikeyan laid out, many, many challenges are there. Now, of course, we are very, very advanced today, technology, highly resourceful. We are very integrated. Many, many things are, but yet we are very divided. We are very stressful. Very uncertain situations are there. That's how the mind is thinking. Now, obviously, this is leading, and then we recognize and we hear that there is mental health crisis is coming up. There is significant, or due to various reasons. Ultimately, it comes back to the individual's mind and the way we think about ourselves. And whatever maybe this Patriji said in one word in there, meditation is an answer to all problems. And I have never understood when he said this word. He used to say it's a solution to all problems, an answer to all questions. But then as you practice and understand, it's a little bit scientific, and I've been a scientific, very scientific temperament person, and then I wanted to explore this in science, and then now thankfully there's so much science to understand meditation so that we feel that this is something I want to take to myself and to everyone. And so the various challenges ultimately come to one thing, that limited understanding of the self. Who am I? I mean, how do I think about myself? And so Adi Shankaracharya said, separation is illusion. When we see others as separate, conflict begins. So separation is illusion. When we see others as separate, and so then conflict begins internally. This is Adi Shankaracharya. So I want you to think about this. If everyone is separate, and of course then is when the conflict is starting. Because then you say, I need to take care of me. Now quantum physics have said this. Now there's a Niels Bohr. He said everything we call real is made up of things that cannot be regarded as real. The Maya illusion that is then a Vedic concept now is beautifully corroborated in quantum physics. And all quantum physics are saying reality is not really reality. What you think is real is not real. That's what Niels Bohr is saying. The world is always in this micro at the subatom level. That's where they are constantly investigating. And so Niels Bohr and then many quantum physicists, if you actually look at their statements, they all come to the same thing, that whatever that we're experiencing is not real. What does he mean? Then how we all see I'm a touch and feel thing, and then everything is here, particles, and everything is I can feel it, sense it, smell it, see it. But then you're saying it's not real. Then why is it not real? So I'd like us to take a little bit of understanding of this. In quantum field, everything is energy. I'm trying to come up with 3 concepts today. One is that we are a very interconnected being. Second is that we are fundamentally beyond this body. That's what spiritual science is saying. Spiritual science, the definition itself is the spirit, the existence, which is there everything. That's the kind of concept of spiritual science. So we are beyond the body. We are very interconnected. And 3, our mind has a huge role to play in the noticing and witnessing what we do called thoughts create reality. 3 concepts. So in this picture, what we see in a simple terms, we start with our organs, and our body has organs, and organs are made up of several cells. The cells are made up of many molecules, like water. Our body is 70% water, so the molecules. Now the molecules, when you further look into them, then you see atoms, which are essentially in water you have hydrogen, oxygen, we call them elements. And everything is made up of these elements. So eventually, from a body which is contained organs to billions and trillions of cells to trillions of molecules to trillions of atoms. So this is where we are going. And so then now you look at this, and what did quantum physics find? Quantum physics found that an atom is 99.999999% empty. When I learned this in the year 2013, I was listening to a quantum physicist called Dr. Amit Goswami. in Bay Area. So I was astonished. Until that time, I did not know about this concept. Then I learned this and said, everything in our body is emptiness and energy. 99.99%, 11 nines, and then if you try to round it, and then so we'll invariably come to a number called 100. It can't be 99. So 100% of our body is empty, and then it's all energy. This is quantum physics discovery, and then it's not now, it's 100-year-old. And so then, if we're all filled with energy and emptiness, and we can say from this specific, a single atom there, now you see electron and neutron. These are physics that we learned. An electron and neutron that is there, and then other than that, everything else in that atom is all emptiness. And if an electron is orbiting an atom from the nucleus, and then everything else is empty out there, and then we see from a naked eye and say, okay, this one is 99% empty. But quantum is saying it's all empty. We have a body made up of several these subatomic particles going to cells, going to organs, but the quantum physics is saying if you go inward, you'll find nothing in there. Now, how do you find all these physical matter? Then it is to do with gravity. You get an idea. Your weight today on here, let's say 100 kgs, when you go to moon, your weight becomes what? 1/6. So your weight is not same. You go to moon, it becomes, because the gravitational force is less. So you can connect these dots to say, quantum is saying our body is all emptiness and energy, which is exactly what many spiritual masters and Adi Shankaracharya, everyone said it's all Brahman that exists. And we are part of that energy. So dear friends, the further point, now even those electrons and neutrons, quantum physics discovered that they are actually energy. The electrons, this is a beautiful discovery. The electrons and neutrons that are there, which are fundamental conscience of every element, are by default energy. They're not matter. They're not touch and feel. They're not like marbles you can touch and feel. They're energy by default. But then we see them as particles. Iron is, hard substance that we see it, and how is that? So then quantum physics is saying, so first thing to understand is that they are energy by default. They by default exist as energy. They become matter due to something. But by default, everything in our body is electrons, neutrons are all energy. And that means, and then they become matter, that means they're oscillating. So we are body, the electrons and neutrons, they're oscillating every second, several times, which we're not even aware. Just like a light bulb flickers and then oscillates, and we see it's a continuous light. And so is the case with our body. These are things that are happening. And so the second discovery, first we're all empty, and then even the electrons and neutrons that we thought particles are also energy by default. And so the difference, if you put these two together, and then if it's all energy by default, and then energy does not stay in one place, there's no boundary. Energy then goes out, energy spreads. A vapor spreads, water stays in one place, but vapor simply spreads everywhere. You can't even see. And so then, if we can conclude that we are all walking field of energy, deep inside we're all energy, there is an energy field around us, and my energy field spreads, and then Karthikeyan's energy field spreads, everyone's energy field spreads here, and then what does it do when you have multiple waves in a pond, and they all do not stay as separate, they become one. And then can we separate those waves? Once they become one. In a pond you drop two stones, and then so the two waves start, and then they go, spread, and then ultimately they become what? They become one big wave, and there's no way you can separate them. So dear friends, the fundamental understanding from this we can derive is that we're all simply energy that is beautifully interconnected, whereas one not separate. The interconnectedness is there at the deep inside, and this needs to be experienced. While intellectually it's great, but can I experience it? This is what meditation is doing. Meditation is fundamentally helping us to experience that connection, because meditation transcends the body. The right meditation, where you withdraw your senses, that's pratyahara from Patanjali, and then you go into emptying the mind, which is dharana, which is observing the breath. And so dharana is to observe what's going on inside, and dhyana is then you're doing and travel, sukshma shaririya, and you do all of that. And so, dear friends, meditation helps you to, when you withdraw thought in a simple terms, That means you drop the form, and then when you withdraw senses, that means you disconnect from the environment, then you're transcending the body, then you suddenly experience the field of energy. In the field of energy, we're all connected. That's why people go into meditation, then they come out and say, okay, there is some kind of connection is there. There is some kind of understanding is there. Then suddenly the thought that I want to dominate this person, I want to manipulate this person go away. The other thing difference is that when we observe, a subatomic particle becomes matter. This is the third element that I wanted to talk about, is that when you observe, the particles are all energy by default, but then when you observe them, and what is observation? Your thought and feeling. What you think about, what you feel about becomes matter, becomes experience. When you observe, then something becomes matter. When you understand everything certain way, then automatically that understanding translates into certain thought, and so then becomes matter, and so have an experience. So dear friends, beyond right and wrong, there is a field. This is Rumi. If everything is emptiness and everything is energy, and you and I are energy in a body, and we're all connected as one, and then that energy becomes matter through observation, this quantum physics discovery, and simply saying energy becomes matter. So then I want us to reflect and say, where did the judgment and the limitation come from? If it's all energy and simply becomes matter through observation, so then where is the limitation? Where is the judgment that this is not there, that's not it, that's not possible? Where is it all coming from? I have less resources and these people are not cooperating. And all of the judgment is coming at the end, dear friends, is then we have to agree that it all comes from the mind, our limited understanding of who I am. The limited understanding is there, and this is beautifully can be explained and say, what is the current state of mind? The current state of mind is very disconnected from this concept. Somewhere about 200 years ago, from the textbook, the subjective experience of what is consciousness has been removed. When the Industrial Revolution came, and then all this consciousness has been removed from the textbook slowly. And so today, everything has to be touch and feel. Subjectivity is gone. And so then even if I have the greatest experience in a prayer and a meditation, then I cannot talk about it. I can't say anything about it, because you say, okay, you're hallucinating. And so then that has gone. So the disconnection happened somewhere. In some religions, of course, through prayer, through culture, you still have some connection, but it became more ritual. The real feeling, the real connection is not there. Puja became a ritual as opposed to really connecting our internal self of who I am. And so the disconnected mind is totally disconnected from this whole thing. Second, there is this restless mind. We are constantly stressful. Day to day, what we see, what we hear, what we take from others is called conscious mind. In our brain, if you look at it, the three parts. The big part of the brain, which is called the conscious mind, called neocortex, is restless. And in a day, an average person is thinking 50,000 thoughts. Most of them are negative. And so restless mind is there. But then most of all the things, the limiting mind, which is called subconscious mind, which is a tiny lemon-shaped shape in the brain, it's called midbrain, also houses the seat of the soul, or called the pineal gland, is subconscious, holds long-term memory, holds the feeling center, is where our lives are governed, this research. 90% of life is operating from this limitation, that is our understanding. I call it limiting mind, but it is our limited understanding of life, of what we are. Why am I thinking this way? I feel that now people are really exploiting me. I feel that I have less resources, I can't survive. So understanding is limited, as opposed to thinking that I can create. Everything in the world is growing. Nothing ever is slowed down. Everything is always growing. Nothing is reducing. But then we feel somewhere that I have less resources, so the conflicts operate, conflicts begin. Where we are all connected, we're all one, but then we feel that this is my group. There is so much of fanaticism is there, that this is me, and then my group, my community. All of them come because of a lesser understanding of the self, of what we are. And that's called limitation, a subconscious program in scientific understanding, in neuroscience understanding. And so the current mind is very limited. I can't do this, not possible, people don't cooperate. I don't have sufficient health, my body is like this. Everything is a limitation. Everything is a limitation. 90% of the life is through it. So then, dear friends, the solution, if we understand from from spiritual science, from Vedic sciences, and from quantum physics that everything is energy connected, and we are then as an energy, we're all connected as one, not separate. All these 100 lights here in this room form one light. They're not separate lights. Their identities are there at the same time, a single light. And so we're all connected as one. And then from there comes the matter, observation brings matter, then our mind is saying, this is only possible, that's not possible, is limiting. They are the ones who are causing my problems. When I came into meditation, first thing I learned from Patriji is that no complaints, no judgments. This is the governing principle. He said, no complaints, no judgments. I said, everything about me that time was to blame somebody else. Oh, my boss is not cooperating. Oh, this is not happening. We're not getting funding. Everything is just blame. Then he said, no complaint, no judgment. How do we live? Later, when I realized, looked into the statement, if you can master this statement, no complaints, no judgment, then entire spirituality is coded in that. Simple. We accept situations that are coming to me and say anything. I mean, depth is there. Business loss is there. We say somebody else cheated. Go back and step back and understand this and say, who is the cause of it? If I am the whole creation, then who is the cause of it? Where is it coming from? Thoughts create reality. That's science. Observation manifests possibility. So how does it happen? So it took some time for me to get trained, but then no complaint, no judgments was beautifully. First thing it did was to free me completely rather than depending on somebody else and feel helpless for the rest of the life and say, my spouse does not change, my son does not change, so then I have to live with it. The concept of living is gone. Concept of living helplessly is gone. So dear friends, the mind has to change, and then meditation and wisdom are the two fundamental things that lead towards, we call awareness intelligence. In the era of artificial intelligence, what is built is awareness. When you have the right understanding and we have the right meditation, then automatically then things are changing for the mind is rectified, mind is elevated to a greater understanding. What is meditation? It's a process to go within. As Karthikeyan has said, it's a process to go within. Techniques may be different. Many techniques are there, but eventually you want to go within. What is within? To transcend the body. We got to transcend the body to know who we are. And so we will practice shortly the meditation. Ending of the restless thoughts of the mind is the first step in any form of meditation. Can I rest the mind? To rest the mind, I have to rest the body, or to transcend the body. That's why senses have to be withdrawn. Open eye meditation, not sure. When the senses are, the biggest sensory organ is operating, how do you go into the state of that? But then when senses are withdrawn, then when mind is thought and mind is form is removed, the thought, because the thought holds the form. Your time is there in it and space is there, that has to be removed. When these two are done, that's the first step in meditation. Let it be any technique, but it needs to eventually graduate there. And then when that happens, when you remove the mind, when you empty the mind, automatically different, then we are naturally, when you transcend the body, where energy and matter. Matter is gone, we have to be energy. We experience energy. How many people here, many meditators here, are experience energy, experience some kind of connection every time you meditate? Anybody here? Beautiful. So many hands have raised. And so that's because we are transcending ourselves in meditation. So that suddenly you realize you are the whole, not the tiny you, what we think we are. That's what happens in meditation. The second thing that Patriji called spiritual scientific understanding, the wisdom, just codifying. We are very connected, not separate. Second, we have infinite possibilities in this field of quantum. That's called quantum field of infinite possibilities. Third, our observation manifests. My thoughts, my mind has something to do with what I create in my life. And fourth is that there is this intuitive intelligence helping me. I'm not alone. In many religions, it's possible to be easily connected to this concept, but there's always something is guiding me. That connection is there. The field is called awareness, is constantly paying attention to us because it reflects with observation. And so when these four statements are understood, and meditation helps us to understand these statements, then beautifully life starts changing, because we become very empowered to lead a great life. This conference will have multiple meditations. We had a pre-conference meditation early in the day. And so let's do a practice of meditation. The thing is, it is a very scientific process, meditation. This is exactly what we want to do. It's a simple process, a scientific process, universal. There is so much science behind it. And then through this conference, you will hear from speakers some scientific voice and understanding. And simple practice, we'll practice once and then we'll practice that several times during these 2 days so that we are initiated. There is no separate initiation, special thing required, and we are right here. It's all about withdrawing senses and emptying the mind, whatever may be the technique, right? And so we'll practice it and see it. When someone said that you can do it in flight, you can do it in car, you can do it everywhere, because it's that simple. Karthikeyan said this, any time is okay. And so what is the process? The process is this: observing our natural breath with our eyes closed. So we are simply sitting, and then the posture is there. If you see, we're all sitting in the chair right now, and so we take that posture of the person in the sofa. We cross our feet at ankle, we fingers into fingers, and then rest our hands comfortably in our lap, and we close our eyes. And those of us wearing spectacles, please remove them. Glasses are not required. And so then, with our eyes closed, dear friends, fingers into fingers, hands in our lap, crossing our feet at ankle. When you do this, we gently lock the body. The body, when it moves unnecessarily, creates restlessness in the mind. So we gently lock the body. And then we close our eyes, and it's the biggest sensory organ, so we're closing our eyes. Then what do? We observe our breath. You be in a very relaxed posture. So if the body is not comfortable, then you cannot really empty the mind, rest the mind. So body has to be relaxed. So no matter what the state is, so if you need to take back support, do it. As a beginner, it's not necessary. If you want to do for, of course, longer hours, then the body has to be very comfortably set. So be comfortable. And then we rest our attention anywhere on the nose, preferably at the middle of the eyebrows, but anywhere on the nose, and observe the natural breath, the breath that is going in and coming out. When you observe your breath, slowly, slowly, mind becomes empty. And then we stay in that state of emptiness. And thoughts come naturally, thoughts keep coming. And in case you notice thought, I'd like you to go back to your breath and again start the process all over. And whenever you're ready, you can keep your hands on your eyes for 5 seconds, and then you can open your eyes. How many people are doing this for the first time here? Practice. Few hands. Great. So we've got many who already aware are practicing it. So wonderful. So thank you, friends. Meditation, to bring it back together, if we recognize that we are much more than this body and energy, and how do we commune with it? And so there are several things that we do while meditation helps us to go beyond. In our wakeful time, there are several things we do. We call it holistic living. Something that is not disturbing the nature, but then communing with the nature. And so there are several practices. You commune with nature. Vegetarian, plant-based diets. You need-based consumption. Healing by self-natural method. Study of higher knowledge. Contemplation, practice of silence and mauna, surrender, acceptance, gratitude, and service to others. So many of these practices are naturally inculcated with meditation. Well, one thing to know about it and actually do it, but another thing to practice meditation to do them anyway. They'll ultimately happen. So dear friends, applying all of this knowledge, we understand that even just we take one social problem, one of the problems that exists today, even the geopolitical crises, where today, before meditation, we have an identity issue, scarcity issue, controlled thinking. They all change to oneness thinking, abundance mindset, and empathic attitude. So automatically the political issues slowly have to dissolve over the period of time. So is the crisis, the climate crisis. So is the mental health. Everything has got a beautiful scientific understanding, explanation, that we are always doing programs around this and bringing the science behind it. And so we in this conference, as we go for the next 2 days, we will hear from speakers about how and why, and then what are the ways that we can embed meditation into our every part of our life. And many, many leaders are coming together to talk about their personal journey first, and then in a way that makes us believe that I too can implement, I too can take it to everyone around. So thank you very much. Thank you.